let's be honest here. You've thought about leaving and taking the monitor with you to go grab something really quickly and come right back, right?
I'm sure the thought has crossed
You've thought
my
about
mind.
it. Don't lie to me. You know you've thought about it.
What if?
In your mind, you've thought about it for more than a minute. I say this because I have definitely thought about this many times.
Yeah.
I've been like, the place just down the street is fine. Like, I'll be back in 5 minutes.
What's the worst that could happen?
I've got the monitor with me. I can see.
Meanwhile, I've seen enough Netflix documentaries about like child abductions and weird, crazy paranormal stuff to know, okay, maybe not the best idea. But yes.
I didn't end up doing it, people. Just want to be clear.
Exactly.
Just want to be clear.
Yes. You're listening to Dadsplaining, a weekly chronicle of all the weirdest, messiest, grossest, and funniest parts of fatherhood, hosted by two first-time dads. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And this week we are talking about solo parenting. Whether you're a single parent or just the only adult in the house for any extended amount of time, that can come with its own challenges and its own joys. But we are going to focus on the tips, the hardships, and just how to get through it. But before we get into all of that, Brandon, if our listeners want to reach out to us, where can they find us?
Check us out on all your major social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. Please give us a like and a follow there. You can drop us an email at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us and get all of our episodes anywhere you get your podcasts.
That's right. And if you're enjoying the show, please do us a favor. Take 30 seconds and give us a rating on your podcasting app, whether it's iTunes, Apple Podcasts, what have you. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. New listeners, when they're looking for a podcast, they're looking for something that's well-rated and has some personal reviews. So if you're getting something out of this, give something back. All right. So, Brandon, what is new with Noah this week?
Well, we're obviously going to talk about the solo parenting thing, so I'll put that aside for 2 seconds. But it's been pretty standard fare, I would say. But something that it kind of dives in with today's topic is you just have those days or several days when you just feel like you can't quite figure it out.
Yeah.
And we don't really, talk about it as much. Maybe we do on this podcast. I don't know. I don't have the ear to know how we sound on the regular basis. I feel like we're kind of upbeat most of the time. But then at home, when I'm actually doing the parenting, this is the easy part. I feel like it's a little less upbeat.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe this is not just me, right, all parents, but I feel
definitely.
like more and more, just of recent, it's been a little bit more of a struggle lately. We're going through a lot of changes. My son's just over 1 year old, so we're changing away from, breast milk and formula over to solids, and that's a lot of anxiety. He already doesn't, weigh a ton to begin with. He sleeps, but he's not perfect. Like, there's just like the spiraling of things. He's, got more of that personality, so he's just got like tons of energy, and he's just all over the place sometimes. There's like, everyone gets that allergy switch when we head into spring.
Yeah.
But he seems to have like the cough kind of a thing going on at the same time. So it's just kind of like it hits you all in a ball of just like all at once. That was if you missed it the first time. And
which are noises people love to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
yeah, and
sometimes
it's just a lot. So I don't know. We, Austin and I were just kind of like feeling pretty beaten up about it of late, and I know that's not an uncommon thing for parents, but not something that we tend to talk about on the show. We want you to feel like we're super positive people over here, but like, man, we get down in it.
Yeah.
We get down in the weeds sometimes, and so we just had some of those moments where we're just like, what are we doing? Are we doing a good job?
Yeah.
And once you start asking those questions, like, it's not bad questions to ask, but like once you start asking those questions, you really go down the hole, because if you start questioning yourself as a parent, like, that's a really dark place to be, like, every essence of what you're doing. And the good thing is, like, there's two of us, so we can kind of bounce this off each other. And sometimes we do bring each other down, because it's hard.
Yeah.
You try to be each other's sounding board, but when one of you is exhausted, the other of you is probably also exhausted as well. But just kind of, the next day, I don't know, it's weird. Like, it's kind of bipolar in some ways, where some days it's fantastic and some days it's trying as get all. And so sometimes we just have those days, and then we come out of it the next day, and you're like, oh my God, this kid is so cute, and look at his smile, and oh my goodness, we're going to the park, and it's amazing and wonderful. And then you have other people in your life who help you out too. So like, I talked to some other friends of mine who are parents, and while they may not be giving me the upliftingness either. Hearing them talk about how much of a struggle it is just puts it back into perspective and be like, holy crap, this is just tough all around.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard it said, and this was said in respect to looking at social media, but I think it's also true of parenting. When you're looking at what everyone presents to the public, you're seeing the highlight reel. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You know, when someone posts pictures of their kid on Instagram or posts, some cute thing they did on Facebook, all you're seeing are the highlights. They're only seeing the things that they want to present to the world. But you, looking at your own life, you're seeing the blooper reel. You're seeing everything, and especially focusing on the mistakes you make, because of perception. So, like, I always have to keep that in mind when I'm looking at, oh, man, that dad has got it going on. They're living the dream, and it looks like they're doing everything right. Why can't I do that? Why am I here, like, managing tantrums and not knowing how to handle that correctly? And, am I disciplining my kid enough? But, I think it's healthy to keep that in mind, that really we're only seeing the best self of everyone else, but we have to see everything on our own. So if you can keep that in mind, it's not going to get rid of those feelings entirely. And, we have to be sort of self-critical at times so that we can grow. But I don't know why I'm getting so philosophical.
No,
but,
great.
I think it's important for everyone to keep that in mind. We're not doing as bad as we think we are. I think we live in an age where we feel like everything has to be perfect. But, we got to keep in mind that, we were raised a certain way, and our parents before us were raised in a certain way. And, over time we all get better and better, and our kids are getting safer and safer and healthier and healthier. And you're not going to kill your kid, and you're not going to ruin them for life if you're not getting an A+ 100 grade on every single thing that you're doing.
Right.
I don't know.
Just go for average. We're batting for B's.
Yeah,
Occasional C is fine.
Parenting's graded on a curve.
Exactly. I think so. Well, all right. Well, I'm feeling better just from that. That was
good.
Nice. That was very nice. Well done. Now that I've given us a nice light mood to start things off,
Right.
how have you guys been lately?
We've been doing good. Ashley was out last week for a work trip. My wife, Ashley, in Las Vegas. She got back late Friday night. We came down to pick her up from her parents' house Saturday morning. And that was really nice. It was nice for David to get her back. We're going to talk about this throughout the episode, but I was able to lean on David's grandparents for the first half of the week to watch him, to give myself a break.
Yeah.
So I could work and then come home and then just relax or take care of chores, because there were a lot of chores that needed to get done.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then Thursday, Friday, I had David on my own. Other than that, David has been picking up a few new tricks over the past couple of weeks. One thing he's been doing lately is blowing kisses, which is
very
absolutely
cute.
adorable,
Yeah.
especially when we are FaceTiming with his grandma,
That's nice.
or, when he's visiting. We visited his great-grandmother yesterday, and he blew her a few kisses, which was really cute. He's also now getting into this phase, I think I mentioned this last week, where he's very clingy with things. If he's holding a thing, that is his thing, and if you take it from him, he'll cry.
Oh, boy.
But he will also really enjoy taking something and handing it to you, and his word for that is gum. Everything, no matter what it is. He'll take something, pick it up, hand it to you, gum, gum, gum. And we have theories about this. We think maybe he has heard us say, "You're welcome," and that is his best attempt at saying, "You're welcome," even though we haven't said thank you
You're
yet.
all gum.
Right? Gum.
Gum.
It's
perfect.
It's plausible.
Yeah.
But it's that word for everything. And now he will also have imaginary conversations when he'll pick up a phone off the ground, like a toy phone, or when he's visiting his grandma, he'll pick up the house phone and just walk around with it, go gum, 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 gum. But it's mostly gum.
Right.
Which I know, if he's learned that word, that's great.
Yeah.
And maybe from there he'll learn other words. But the other cool thing is, I don't remember if I mentioned this last week, but my wife and I were out with our son at a coffee shop that we go to all the time about a week and a half ago, and he hit a milestone. He drank out of a cup with his own hands for the first time.
Whoa.
He had a little plastic cup of water, and usually we'll hold it and let him kind of hold it and tilt it back, and let him sip it that way. But he actually picked it up with both hands. Like he did that on his own. We didn't make him do it. And drank, and he spilled it on himself naturally.
Sure.
Yeah. It wasn't an A+ job, but
Okay. We're going for B's today. That's
exactly.
all we're doing.
Yeah, that's the theme. Like, just go for average, pass, get a passing grade.
That's right.
And yeah, but that was really cool. It's always fun as a parent to see your kid hit those milestones and do those really mundane things for the first time that they're going to take for granted the rest of their lives, and so are you. But it's really cool for those firsts. So on to this week's topic, solo parenting. We decided to talk about this week because Brennan and I have both had experiences recently where the partners were out of the house and we were the only adults in the house for an extended amount of time. For you, Brennan, I think it was a whole week.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it was just a couple of days. So we are going to get into sort of the challenges that we came across, and then toward the end of the episode, we're going to get into some tips. So Brennan, to start off, tell me, how was the experience as a whole?
Well, as a whole, since we're giving grades out today, probably a B+. I don't know. I mean, I'm feeling pretty bullish about it. Everyone survived, which that gets you to at least a C. Like, passing is just survival, I feel like. But, yeah, it was 4 nights, Monday to Thursday night, and then my wife came back on Friday. And so just me and the little guy. And, you know, because it was during the week and all of, we have lots of grandparents for my son Noah, but everybody's still working right now, so no one was able to kind of like come and hang out with us or anything, which was fine. I think one of the things that makes it more streamlined is just, at least with the two of us, like we both work, our wives work, so it's totally normal for our kids to be at daycare all day.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, that just kind of skims off a large portion of your day off the top to relieve a little bit of that pressure. So then just going to get him in the evenings, and then you just got a couple hours at night. So not to make it sound easy by any stretch, but that's just kind of like a burden relief just off the top, knowing that it's not every single day, all day, without fail.
Yeah.
There are some people living that life, and that is got to be challenging, is about all I can say.
Oh, yeah. I had basically sort of a similar experience. Mine was more, it was shorter. I had Thursday and Friday. So David's grandparents watched him Monday through Wednesday. My wife left Sunday night. So I had a little bit of help. But for those 2 days, yeah, it was really interesting because you're the only one there. You know, usually my wife and I split up duties where I will handle most of the afternoon stuff. I'll pick up my kid from daycare while my wife is still at work. I'll take him home, change him, play with him, give him some dinner, and get him in the bath. And usually by that point, my wife is home and she can help with the bedtime stuff.
Gotcha.
And then in reverse, in the mornings, that's when my wife is there because I have to go into work early.
Yeah.
So she will wake him up, prep his lunches, give him breakfast, and get him to daycare.
Okay.
So when you're the only one doing all of that, it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. Like, for one thing, you have to get really flexible with getting to work and getting off work and like just figuring all of that out because it's hard to work a full day. When, say, daycare doesn't open until 7 a.m. and then you have to get back and pick up your kid by 6 p.m. And on top of all of that, I mean, you know, it's going to be different for everybody, but for me, I have like a 45-minute to an hour commute.
Yeah.
So I have to sort of build that into my timetable. So that got really interesting. And it's also, you don't really fully appreciate the amount of mental energy that goes into parenting until you're the only one in the room doing it. Where even if you're only spending a few hours with the kid a day in the morning and then at night, it just takes a lot out of you. I remember Friday night after I got David to bed, like I sat down on the couch and then fell asleep for half an hour. And like I woke up and it was pitch black and I'm like, what day is it? Because it sort of knocks you out when you're on all day. And I think when you've got someone to relieve the pressure or to take half of that or just to split up the duties in some way, you don't feel it quite as much, and it just makes you appreciate that even more.
Yeah, on our side, I think we split the duties up, but in maybe a little bit of a different way normally, because my wife and I are generally home about the same time, and we leave together in the morning as well. We have largely similar schedules. Somewhat similar commutes as well, so we kind of line up a little bit more. Usually the difference is that my wife will pick up our son from daycare and drop him off, so I had to assume those duties.
Yeah.
And her commute being a little bit shorter and mine being a little bit longer, my commute just got even longer, of course, because I had to make those detours to drop off our son. It's like on the way for her and not on the way for me.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, just kind of adds a layer of complexity. Can be nice. I mean, if we're trying to find bright spots, like the bright spot is like, oh, got to leave work, early today, guys, because I got to pick up my kid.
Yeah.
And no one can be like, how dare you pick up your child? You must work harder.
Yeah.
No, you don't get any of that feedback. And then just in terms of the like nighttime and stuff, like, yeah, we come home and kind of play for a couple of hours, and then dinner time, bath time, bedtime, etc. And we just kind of split it up. And usually it flows pretty naturally, just kind of like you're tag teaming in and out every, I don't know, like 15, 30 minutes or so, where like I'll be on the floor playing with my son, and we'll play and play and play, and then he'll get bored, and he'll like run away. Literally, like my son just loves like just abruptly leaving the room and trying to explore something else. And then my wife will go chase him down and bring him back, and then she'll tag in, and then I'll just go back and sit on the couch for 5 minutes or whatever it is, and just kind of rest up. And it just kind of cycles through and through. And then especially as you mentioned, like all the chores that you have to do, those just don't happen at all.
Yeah.
So one of the nice things of having two of us is that if one of us is playing, the other one can clean up a little bit.
Yeah.
Dinner, great example.
Yep.
We, make a complete mess of things. Food's all over the floor. If you're feeding him anything liquidy, there's just splotches everywhere, like a scene of murder.
Yeah.
And so once that's done, one of you can take the kid away, the other one can clean up. Not the case when you're the single parent. You just leave that for a couple hours until they're finally done for the night, and then you can go back and clean that up, all alone in an empty house that's quiet, all by yourself on the floor, scrubbing. Anyway, and it's just a little bit quiet, even when things calm down, or even when things aren't calm. It's just you're just kind of aware of it being a little bit lonely.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's nobody else, so that's a little bit weird. And then the thing that I've noticed as well that's I still don't know how I could properly do this, but bath time.
Yeah.
I think we got to talk about this. So no one can leave while the child is in the bath.
Right.
So when there's two of you, one of you can be doing other things to prep for bedtime. You can be getting, like at our stage, we're still doing like the nighttime bottles. So one of you can be prepping the bottle. One of you can be picking out the pajamas. One of you can be cleaning up the nursery, getting everything ready for that. When there's just one of you, none of that can happen. So you have to pre-plan all of this. I'm making this sound like it's hard because for me, at least, it was. Like I wasn't used to thinking in this way, and so sometimes I wouldn't do it. And if you forget any of those details, you throw the whole routine out of whack.
Yeah.
And then the other component to that is once you're done with the bath, right? So maybe this is just lazy, but because there's two of us, one of us will like pick the kid out of the bath and pass him to the other one who's got the towel, and then that person will wrap him up and kind of go on from there. So if you're solo, you got to do this all by yourself. So you got to get the towel, you got to lay it out, pick the kid up, put him on, I don't know, the floor, the best I could come up with, on the towel, wrap him up, then lift him, carry him. You're doing all of this solo. So these tiny details that seem insignificant when you don't have a buddy to help you out with it. I'm just like, what do I do? I didn't prepare. Most of the time it's minor and it's easy to overcome these challenges. I'm calling them challenges, which is probably laughable. But if I forgot the towel, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just stand up and I go to the closet, which is in the room, just so we're all clear.
Luckily.
I grab the towel, okay, I got the towel, okay, no problem. But then if I forget the bottle, instead of going to bedtime and it's dark and he's getting used to it, I got to pull him out into the light and the sun and go get the bottle, and you got to wait for that to warm up. And there's just like all these things where if you don't plan ahead significantly more than you're used to, you're dead.
Yeah, I totally forgot how crucial that bottle warming period is since we've been out of it for a few months.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that because you have to start warming up the bottle, but your kid is already hungry by that point. So then you have to wait like the 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long it takes to get it to be the right temperature.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, your kid is like, okay, hurry up, feed me, where's my food?
Right.
And, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. One thing that might help with bath time, and not Austin's back now, so it doesn't matter, but the next time, what I've learned to do is I will sit on the ground, I will lay out the towel in my lap, and then I'll scoop my son out of the bath, drop him in my lap, and then let him face the bathtub while it drains so he can watch the water drain.
Interesting.
And so that kind of distracts him, gives him something fun to do, and then he'll get bored of that and he'll want to stand up and kind of walk around and explore the bathroom. And I just kind of pat him down as he does that and then start scrubbing his hair, and then I'll pick him up and I'll finish drying his hair off, once his body's dry. So, he gets a little bit distracted by it. And it helps me because I'm already down low on the ground with him. So if I'm sitting cross-legged, I can just scoop him up and drop him in my lap, and there's not as much maneuvering that goes on. That may not work 100% with Noah, but it seems to help with David at least. So I took a little poll. We sort of solicited comments on Facebook. What sort of challenges come up that you didn't expect when you're the only parent in the house? And we got a lot of very interesting comments. I'm just going to go through all of them because some of them are hilarious.
Yeah.
The first one I got was from an older dad named Mark. I say older because his kids are both grown and out of the house. And
Mark is young. We just want to point that out. He is not old.
Young at heart.
That's right.
Mark says the challenge was having to be mostly sober, mostly in parentheses, which, sure was a joke, but we've all been there. Melissa says doing it with one kid is a piece of cake. Just wait until you have more than one. That's family of mine, and they're a family with multiple kids in the house, and I don't know how they do it. Greg says drop off and pick up at school/daycare, plus then commuting to work. Also school closings for teacher work days and snow days.
Oh boy.
It's extremely hard to take care of kids alone without a flexible work schedule, and that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Yeah, if your boss is not flexible with when you can come in and when you can go home and when what your work from home hours, I can imagine it must be a nightmare. Amber says, when it's just one kid, being alert and present 95% of the time. Notice she doesn't say 100% of the time because that is an unachievable ideal.
Yeah.
It can be quite exhausting mentally, especially after a long day of work-life adulting, not to mention the physical stuff. Karina, who is a dedicated follower of ours, says going to the bathroom without an audience.
Ah, yes.
Yes. No sleep, no time to yourself, no time to have an actual meal, when the kids are babies.
It's true.
Beth says, no breaks ever. You're always on. Cassie says, bedtime can be rough. I'm exhausted by then. I make myself stop drinking coffee at 3:30, so by 7:30, I'm wiped out, and I still have to get the kids ready for bed. It's all hard. She says, my mom is taking the kids coming up soon, and I'm going to sleep for a week.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah,
Yes.
We didn't even talk about, dinner or whatever, the adult is going to do, because when you put the kid to bed, you haven't prepared anything. It's late. You're exhausted. You don't want to cook.
Exactly.
And
then, you can't leave the house.
That's the thing is, I'm thinking,
to go
I'll
pick
just
up
pick something up.
No,
Nope,
you're not.
Not an option.
Yeah.
Sucker.
Yeah.
And let's be honest here. Let's be honest, Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cone of truth here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've thought about leaving and taking the monitor with you to go grab something really quickly and come right back, right?
I'm sure the thought has crossed
You've thought
my
about
mind.
it. Don't lie to me. You know you've thought about it.
But here's the problem: the Bluetooth doesn't reach that far.
But in your mind, right? We're admitted
like,
we're sleep
what
deprived.
What if?
In your mind, you've thought about it for more than a minute. I say this because I have definitely thought about this many times.
Yeah.
I've been like, the place just down the street is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be back in 5
What's
minutes.
the worst that could happen?
I've got the monitor with me. I can see.
Meanwhile, I've seen enough Netflix documentaries about child abductions and weird, crazy paranormal stuff to know, okay, maybe not the best idea. But yes.
I didn't end up doing it, people. Just want to be clear.
Exactly.
Just want to be clear.
Yes. Becky says, time, especially after work, picking up from daycare, getting dinner ready, cleanup, and bedtime. Again,
See,
that's
there
the
she
theme.
goes.
It's where do you find the time?
And she assumed she was going to do all of it. I didn't even assume I was going to do half of it.
Yeah, exactly. Austin, Brandon's wife, chimed in and says, just not having a spare set of hands to help everything get done faster and more efficiently, especially the nighttime routines. Finishing dinner, time for bath. You leave the dining room a mess, and it's not going to magically disappear while you're bathing the kid. And then remembering everything on your own. Did you forget the pacifier? You have to carry the kid back out into the living room and find it. I hope they don't get it in their head that it's not bedtime all of a sudden. And then she echoes something that Beth said earlier. You're always on all the time for your kid. You have no one to trade off with if you've just had it, if you get frustrated, which we all do as parents, especially if the kid is in a clingy mood and they have to be held 24/7 and they won't let you put them down to get anything done. My arms just get tired. I don't know about you, but carrying the kid all around when they just want to be held, you just get physically tired.
Yeah. Speaking of the arms getting tired, minor segue here.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed that I am much weaker with my right arm than my left arm, and I tend to favor the left arm when holding my son. Which way do you go?
I go, he's in my right arm most of the time.
There you go.
I've noticed.
I'm a lefty, so it makes sense, I suppose. You're a righty.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's what it is.
Exactly. I started to notice recently that I was developing back pains in my lower back on sort of the left side, and I realized it was because I was favoring the right side holding my kid on my hip. So it was like totally shifting my spine and my center of gravity. And I don't know if any other parents have gone through that, but
Sure we all have. But yeah, we got to even it out. We got to
even it out. You know, balance the kid on the other arm once in a while. Lindsay says, I have the bath time and bedtime routine down to a science after doing it solo for 8.5 months, but I also hate when I finally get her in bed and then I walk out to a messy kitchen and dining room from dinner. Then I have to spend the next 30 minutes cleaning and washing dishes and bottles and prepping food for the next day.
That's demoralizing.
Yeah. I don't know about you, how you handled meals and prepping and cleaning, but I tend to do that in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to mentally like forgive myself for leaving a messy room overnight. And like, I guess I just pray that the ants and cockroaches don't come marching in and looking for the scraps.
Well, yeah, another good comment is the morning after, shall we call it?
Yes.
The morning after when you're waking up as a parent, 9 times out of 10, Noah wakes up when we wake up or he wakes us up. So there's no time to like prepare and do things without him, which can be fine when you have 2 of you.
Right.
But once again, if you have to be with the child the entire time and entertaining them or at least like monitoring where they are in the house, it's very hard to get yourself up, get yourself dressed, get yourself ready, feed yourself, then pack everything up for the kid, because my son just hates sitting while we're doing something else. If he sees us doing something, he wants to be involved in that. And then if we're doing anything like in a room where he doesn't have toys or something to entertain himself with, if he's followed us into that room, like the bathroom or the kitchen, he just is inconsolable most of the time because he wants to be picked up or something. So kitchen, you got to be in there to prepare his food, your food, etc. Like, it's just a nightmare in the mornings. I don't know. I don't really handle it in any other way than like holding him.
Yeah. So I had to make the choice between, do I get sleep? Do I get enough sleep to function as a human adult, or do I sacrifice an hour and a half and I wake up before the kid wakes up and then like sneak around the house on my tiptoes like I'm in a Scooby-Doo cartoon?
Oh yeah.
And try and get things done. And I opted for waking up early, and the trade-off there is, like I said, you have to be absolutely silent and hope that the kid doesn't hear, the dish scraping the bottom of the sink as you're washing them. And then the cringe when you hear the cry and you freeze and you wait to see if the kid's going to go back to sleep on their own. Like, that was me Thursday and Friday, like up early, doing the dishes, starting to prep lunches, and like trying to be so quiet so that he doesn't wake up until 7 a.m. It can get really like, I don't know. The trade-off there is you get a little bit more time to get things done in the morning, and I naturally have more energy in the morning. But yeah, it's a little bit more stressful too, because then you wake up and you're like, why didn't I just do this last night after he fell asleep? I was too tired. That's the answer to that question.
Exactly.
We had one final comment from Abigail, and she said the night waking up in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah.
That can be excruciating when you're the only parent there, and being on daycare drop-off / pickup duty while still having to manage a full-time job. I think we got 5 or 6 people that said that. This is the same thing, like having to do it all and working a job. I think this is something we've talked about a little bit before in previous episodes. Whether you're a dad or a mom, it is such a challenge being a working person and a parent at the same time, because there's a double expectation. If you're a mom, all of a sudden you have to be a perfect mom and a perfect employee to be accepted by different groups of people in society.
Right.
And as a dad, a lot of times people don't understand the dad part because they're so used to the Mad Men era where you work 24/7 and then you come home, smoke a cigar, you get fed a plate of dinner, and you go to sleep with a bottle of gin. That doesn't happen anymore. You've got to be a dad and a worker. It's really hard. There's that double set of expectations. I think sometimes moms feel it a little bit harder than dads, but it's definitely there for both of us. And when you're the only parent that has to handle all of the parenting and all of the working, it can just totally be soul crushing. So, I feel for everyone that's having to do that, whether it's a small amount of time or, single parents. We've said this before. You guys are superheroes. We don't know how you do it.
Absolutely.
So now that we've spent some time in the pit of despair for the first half of this podcast, I think now we are going to get into some of the uplifting stuff. Some tips that you can take with you to make your solo parenting phase a little bit easier. Like I said, I only had 2 days of this, but I learned a little bit in those 2 days, and I kind of took notes like, how can I make this easier for other parents? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? That kind of stuff. So the first thing that I noticed was that you've got to use your time strategically because you don't have as much of it. So I would prep David's lunches either while he was still asleep in the morning, or I would get him up, get him some breakfast, get him in his high chair, and then while he's eating, because he takes at least 15 to 20 minutes to eat, that's when I'm prepping his lunch.
There you go.
So this is something that it's not going to apply to everybody, but if you are being offered help with the kid, accept it. I think sometimes we have like that thing in our minds, like, oh, they're just saying this to be nice. They're just saying they'll watch the kid, but they don't really want to. I don't want to burden them with it. Burden them with it. If they're asking for it, give it to them. My mother-in-law watched David overnight for the first couple of nights, and my mom took him during the daytime. And for one thing, family really enjoys this, especially if they're older, if they're grandparents. They enjoy being with the kid, and they don't mind taking on the responsibility of it. The other half of that coin is it will give you so much relief to not have to handle it the whole time. Brandon, I know that you didn't have the option this time around to do that. But for everyone out there, if you've got the option, if you've got someone that can help out, accept it when they offer it, and when they don't offer it, maybe don't be afraid to ask them.
There you go. Yeah. And I did get a tidbit of help at the tail end. I couldn't pass off my son completely, but my mother did come over on the last night and just kind of sat with us. So I had the tag team was back again.
Isn't that such a relief?
It was amazing just because, I didn't not do anything, but, like someone else could play. It just kind of goes back into the norm. And you had 2 hands to do different things. And then, like, it felt like my reward for making it through the week because this was my last night.
Yeah.
And I knew when I made it that I'd have some support again. And then my big reward at the end of the night was I got to leave the building and go get some food.
Oh, my God.
And bring it back. And then I was like, oh, my God, I left the house. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And it was legal, guys. Didn't do it without anyone around. I promise. Like, not making this up. This actually happened.
So another thing I wrote down was learn to move fast. And when I say that, I mean like get everything done, get your kid out the door as quickly as possible in the morning. Sometimes if you've got 2 parents around, it can be a little bit easier to sort of take your time with it. Let them slowly eat breakfast, then give them a little bit of playtime while you're getting dressed and getting everything ready for work and then dropping them off for daycare. But I realized that I had to move very quickly once he got up.
Yeah.
So I would get him up, get him breakfast, get him lunch, get him dressed, and then get him out the door before he needed a second diaper change.
Right.
And then drop him off at daycare, and then now he's his teacher's problem for 10 to 11 hours, or however long that your kid is going to be in daycare. Try and compact everything, combine things if you can, and take advantage of when your kid is not going to need to be on your hip, like when they're buckled into their high chair eating. Like, take that time to do the time-intensive stuff. And then if you can, try and get up a little bit before they wake up so that you can do the things that you need to do where you're not going to be in the same room as them, so that you then don't have the stress of having a crying kid that wants attention.
Yeah, good call. I know that I was moving at like lightning speed in the morning when I like to move at a glacial pace on a normal day.
Yeah.
I really like to take my time, and I have it for granted because there's 2 of us, so we can tag team like who's watching the kid and who's doing whatever you need to do to get ready in the morning. But yeah, when it's just me, it was boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
We were out so fast that we showed up before daycare opened one morning, and I had to wait for the teachers to arrive for a few minutes and be like, take my kid, bye.
Yeah, we've done that before. You just have to learn to move fast. And I'm the same way in the mornings. I like to take my time. That's why I even get up a little bit earlier so that I have time to listen to some music or, browse Facebook or whatever.
Important things in life.
Exactly, the important things. But that brings me to my next tip, which was go to bed. Like, when you get your kid in bed, do what you got to do to get ready for the next day or whatever. And then, like, don't stay up late. I made this mistake the first night of okay, well, what's on Facebook? What's on Instagram? And then before you know it, an hour has gone by. And I've done nothing of value. And all I've done is put my brain sort of in that dead space where you're not ingesting anything. You're just sort of like, okay, this person did that. This person did that. That food looks good. Well, now I'm just super tired. And, I'm not getting the rest I need. I didn't get anything out of it in return, really. So I learned the second night I just went to bed super early, and then I got a full night's rest the next day. So resist the urge to binge Netflix or, scroll through your Twitter feed. Take a little me time. I think that's really important, to enjoy yourself and do something you enjoy. But also, do your best to get a little bit of rest. I don't know.
I did not do that whatsoever. I did all the things that you're not supposed to do, just in general and according to Jesse. Binged every single night. Just hit that Netflix. It's just so great.
Well, I'm
just
saying
over
it
and over
because
again. I know you did. I know. But that's exactly what I didn't do. And I went to bed at my kind of usual 10:30 to 11 o'clock. Time, even though I was the only parent. It's just so easy to sit back and just enjoy. And that's like your reward. I survived. My kid's alive and asleep. He's alive. He's asleep and alive.
Yeah.
And that's what you want for the reward. You want to kick back and you want to just be like, all right, 20 episodes, let's go, hit me.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I did the first few nights that my son was with his grandparents.
There you go.
I think back on when I was just alone, in my college dorms or whatever, and when you're just alone, you think, okay, well, I'll get to have a little me time, but I'll still be responsible. I'll still go to bed at a decent hour and I'll eat healthy. No, you revert back to the single life of binging Netflix and Facebook and eating junk food and staying up late for no reason whatsoever and not getting enough sleep.
Right.
And I guess it just sort of made me realize, I guess I'm fully domesticated now. I think I actually need another person to help me get in bed at a reasonable hour and take care of myself. So I was really grateful when my wife came home and we got, because when there's another person in the house, it's not that they're saying, okay, it's time for bed, because usually I'm the one saying, okay, it's time for bed. But you tend to have to go to bed a little bit earlier because, I don't know, you're together and you have to sync up your sleep schedules a little bit.
Right.
So that was something I learned because I made the mistake the first several nights. Something else that I noted that we've already touched on a little bit is getting a flexible work schedule. Try and negotiate this with your job, and hopefully they'll be willing to negotiate a little bit. What I did was when my kids' grandparents were watching David for the first few days, I worked super long days so that I could take hours off for the days where I needed to be with David. And I sort of negotiated that with my boss ahead of time, and we said even if I need to work a full 8 hour those days, maybe I can come home a couple of hours early and just work from home for those hours. So it helps if you've got a flexible work schedule where you can work remotely or pad your hours in other places. I think Monday I worked a 12-hour day.
Oh wow!
So that I could take a few hours off because I had other because you're parenting, you're doing the daycare and drop off, but then you've got the other chores that you've got to take care of. This past week, I had to take my car into the shop and get a whole bunch of stuff repaired while I had the kid. That is a challenge. And that's something else that I should have touched on in the challenges section of this, was when you're the only parent with the kid, I had to figure out, how am I going to take my car to the shop and then get a ride back to the house.
Oh, yeah.
And then get in our other car, because luckily my wife left her car, and then get to work all with the kid. So that's when I realized, okay, I've just got to drop him off at daycare before I do any of this.
There you go.
Be okay with getting him in daycare super early and leaving him there longer, and then be okay with getting to work late on top of all that. You have to be willing to take the dings. If your boss is not going to be fully negotiable and flexible with a flexible work schedule, you kind of have to be okay with pissing off your boss a little bit and getting into work late. And luckily, I had a boss who was not that, who was very flexible and helped out, but not everyone's going to be in that situation. And we've said before, you're going to fail somewhere. You're going to let somebody down. This is a lesson I've had to learn time and time again. It's better to not let down the people that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. Try and fail for the people in your work life or something like that, and fight the urge to be a perfectionist at work. That is one of my biggest challenges in life.
Yeah. If you're gonna have that struggle, though, something that I took advantage of with the daycare situation, and you kind of have to get the piece with not being too critical of yourself as a parent, is when you have to handle the pickups and drop-offs, use the daycare time as much as necessary, and don't feel bad about it.
Yes.
Because especially when you're the only one, and I know we're not single parents all the time. We're not on your level of single parents, so like you're just better than us already, just in case you were wondering. We don't struggle that much. But when you're the only one, I normally work until like 4:30 or 4 or 4:30 on a normal day.
Sure.
Maybe I don't get home until 5-ish. And usually my wife has picked up our son by 4:30 at the latest, like before I even leave some days.
Yeah.
And so I tried my best to leave a little bit earlier when I could, but if I couldn't, I didn't beat myself up about getting to daycare at 5 or 5:30 to pick up my son.
Yeah.
Even though I know that he's going to go to bed at like 6:30 or 7, and like that doesn't give me as much time. When you're the only one, like you got to take advantage of what you've got available to you in terms of that support. So if you don't have parents to help you out, daycare is a support mechanism.
Yes.
Drop them off early, get your work done, come back and get them. If you have to stay late, stay a little bit late. You're still going to get your kid, and he's taken care of.
Yeah, don't feel bad about it.
He's having a good time.
Exactly. Like
maybe even a better time than me.
Yeah, exactly. Like they've got other kids to engage with there. And, don't think of it like if you get there an hour late, they're going to be sitting on the curb, like the sad kid.
That is the thing that I do. I think that in my mind.
Yeah, you think like, oh man, he's going to be waiting on me. No, they're having fun with their teacher. They're getting like an extra late afternoon snack time. I know that my daycare does that. Like if your kid's still there at 5 o'clock, who knows, But they're being engaged with and they're having fun, and lean on that. Like don't feel bad for taking advantage of the resources that you have at your disposal. And then the last thing I'm going to say from my own tips is just lower your standards a little bit. Like be okay with getting less done. I did not get, I started off the week with a full-on list of chores that I was going to get done. Ooh. And I took advantage of the days that I had where David was not in the house to do a lot of those. Yeah. But then there were some that I just could not get to because I was balancing, work with the kid with everything else I was doing. Right. And you just don't get as much done, or it just takes twice as long to get them done. And I mean, that's a lesson that you learn as parents in general, but especially when you're the solo parent and you're having to do all of it, you're just going to get less done. Be okay with that. Lower your, move your goalposts.
Yeah.
And, say, okay, well, if I can't get these 10 things done, what can I push to next week? And then can I focus on these smaller things and just cross those off and feel good about that? I don't know.
Or get nothing done.
Hey!
Other than keeping your kid alive. That's where I like
That's
to
an
live.
achievement in and of
just
itself.
Nothing whatsoever, right? Because if you don't have any flexibility other than just getting what you have to get done, I mean, I went in thinking I would accomplish nothing whatsoever. And so the way that I tried to prepare for that is... before my wife left, we cleaned the house, we did the laundry, we did all the things that you don't want to have to deal with. Now I know cleaning the house sounds like a joke because it's going to get made messy again, but there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
There's the parts of the house that you don't always clean on a daily basis or your kid doesn't interact with, the bedrooms and things of that nature, bathrooms, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Clean all that up ahead of time, get it as pristine as you can get, and then you just have to worry about the toy pickup or whatever, or cleaning the kitchen,
right?
Whatever it is. And then the kind of other component to that is, I got some easy to prep or make or frozen meals ahead of time, and so I just knew I wasn't going to cook. I knew I wasn't going to be able to go anywhere. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything, so I just kind of set myself up for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that is actually setting yourself up for success.
Exactly, yeah. Basically, the goal is just stay off the evening news for being one of those disaster parents that does something insane. Keep your kid alive, healthy, and safe. And if you've done those three things, you're doing okay. I think that's the consensus
That's that
here.
B+ work.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we're grading on a curve here. So real quickly, I'm going to hit two articles I found that share good tips on how to handle solo parenting. The first one comes from a blog called noguiltmom.com. Mommy blog there, and the title of the article was 5 Clever Ways to Rock at Solo Parenting. I'm going to hit on just a few of these. One, she says something that we've said, use your time as an opportunity. But the way she said it is really interesting that I really like. It's use this time when you're alone to do things that you can't do when you're a couple. And what she pointed out, which I thought was really funny, is, when you're negotiating what to have for dinner with your wife or with your husband or whatever the case is, you have to compromise, right? Because something you like is not going to be something they like. Take advantage of this time when you're by yourself to do the things that you like.
Yes.
Eat the food that you like that you usually stay away from. Or catch up on your shows that you don't want to waste your wife's time on because they don't enjoy
Bingo.
it.
Yes,
You know?
there it is. This was me. It was binging The West Wing, and it was eating fried chicken every night.
Okay, so my wife loves The West Wing, and I watch it too, but not as much as she does. So you guys should just have a binge night together sometime.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
We get together all the time. You guys just don't know.
Yeah, and
You guys are solo parenting, and we're just like over here just like binging Netflix.
Right. She also says early bedtime, which is something that I said earlier. It's like, don't stay up late working or
Pass
watching
on that.
TV. Yeah, I know. What something she said was kind of interesting is if you're not going to go to sleep, read a book. Do something quiet where there's not a lot of noise going on because your brain has been so overstimulated all day by screaming kids and, work conference calls and things like that it might help give you a little peace of mind to do something quiet.
Take that extra long shower. You don't have to
Hey, there
share
you go.
the hot water or any of that. You don't have to worry about getting any grief from a 20-minute shower. You're the only
Right.
one there. Nobody's counting.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
She says, this is cool, special treats for the kids. This is going to work better as your kids get older. Our kids are both basically infants and toddlers right now. But it's not just talking about sweets and desserts. Like, give your kid cool little rewards to make the time special. So when you're the solo parent, like give them a night where they can sleep in the bed with you or on the floor in a sleeping bag. It's like something fun and out of the ordinary to make it unique for them, so that it doesn't just feel like, oh, why is dad not here or why is mom not here? So, why are we having to do less fun things and having to, not do all the cool stuff that we do? Like, do fun, unique stuff to make them almost feel like a little mini vacation. I thought that was really interesting.
Nice.
And then she also says, which I really appreciate, easy meals.
There it is.
Lean on that Instant Pot, the microwavable stuff, the
frozen pizza.
Yeah, exactly. The things that if you had all day, you would take a few hours in the kitchen and rustle up something delicious, but you don't have to do that. Like, don't put that extra pressure on yourself when it's just going to totally stress you out. So I thought that was really cool. I also dug up an article from firstcry.com, another parenting blog, on 10 tips to make solo parenting easier. I'm just going to touch on a few of these because we've already discussed most of them.
Yep.
They say prepare mentally. Keep a countdown. Like, keep a calendar leading up to when your partner comes back, basically, so that you've got the end in sight. Like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel to kind of keep the hope going. They said also plan meals ahead. Maybe start out the week like knowing what you're going to do every day so that you don't feel like you're behind the 8 ball when it comes time to dinner and you don't know, okay, what do I need to take out of the freezer and defrost and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I had a lot of help here because my wife is really good at prepping meals ahead of time, where she will make, for instance, these delicious little healthy chicken pot pie muffins for David.
Yum.
He loves them. He devours them. She made a bunch of these, made them in little cupcake tins, and then froze them all in the freezer so that I would just have to defrost them in the morning. And I could chop it up and send it with him for lunch, or I could give it to him for dinner. She also cooked like some meatloaf and some vegetables ahead of time, so I just had to make a couple little side items. That kind of meal prep, if you can do it at the beginning of the week, on the weekend when you got a little bit more time, I think it goes a long way. And then the last one I'm going to touch on is stock up while grocery shopping. You're not going to get a whole lot of time to, go out and get groceries. So when you do, like, go in with a list for sure, and get maybe even more than you think you need, so that you don't have to then come home and go, oh, shoot, I forgot the bananas, and then have to turn right back around.
Exactly.
And then, like, lose that window of time between now and when you have to go pick up your kid.
Exactly. See, I excelled 50-50 on this preparing thing. I prepared for myself. I'm very selfish, clearly, and I haven't done the solo parenting enough because I prepared for myself. I got my meals and everything figured out, did not think one whit about my son and his meals and prepping anything for him. So every night, every morning, I was like, oh, my God, what am I going to, and it's funny you mentioned the mental countdown because I do that for sure, where I'm like, okay, made it through one day, only 3 more to go. Halfway, okay, hump day, we're almost there.
Right.
And then like on the last day, I'm like, oh, this is the last night because the next night my wife is coming back. And then my wife just texted me as we were saying this, and she's making fun of me because she's like, speaking of countdowns, only 1 more week until you have to solo parent again.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, no, that's not the kind of countdown I want. Yeah, my wife's going back on another trip, so I will be back in the solo parenting boat, taking these lessons to heart 100%, maybe like 50% because I'm probably still gonna binge Netflix.
Well,
I'm
we're
probably
not
still
perfect.
not gonna go to bed
Yeah.
on time. I'm gonna eat fried chicken. I'm just gonna have a good time with myself.
All right, so I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of Dadsplaining. Brandon, once again, where can our listeners find us?
Please give us a like or a follow on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. You can drop us an email, dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts.
Fantastic. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave us a rating and a review, especially on platforms like iTunes that will sort of expand your reach and put you on rankings based on the ratings and reviews. So I know it seems like we're begging, but it really does help us connect with more dads. So if you got the time, do us a favor. So Brandon, what are we talking about next week?
All right, guys, we've got a little bit of a surprise. We've got Path A, Path B. We'll see what happens. It just depends on a little bit on scheduling, but we're either going to have a real treat. We're going to interview a connection we've made through the show, someone who is a board game developer and has created his own kind of family-friendly board game. We're really excited to possibly have him as our first guest. If that doesn't pan out this week, hopefully we'll bring that to you next week. And if we have to, we will then talk instead about tantrums and how you can deal with your kids pitching a fit in the middle of the grocery store and how best to act like that is not your kid.
That got me. All right, so until next time, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And hey, Brandon, what does a fish listen to in the car?
Mer music.
No, a codcast.
Okay. That's right. The best codcast out there, Dadsplaining a codcast. That sounds awful.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.